Hi, this is Hale Dwoskin. This week we are re-releasing one of my favorite episodes. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do, and I'm sure you'll get even more insights from listening to it again, if you've already heard it.
It's so clear. You look at the world right now, just the divide between the right and the left in America, and you realize it's just beliefs. It's just
Right.
belief that the other person shouldn't be thinking what they're thinking, doing what they're doing, whatever. And until we can step back from that and just realize it's our beliefs and our stories and all the conditioning that we have, it's creating that reaction, the triggers, etc., that are written about in the book and that you teach about.
Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I'm Hale Dwoskin, and today we'll be talking to my longtime friend, Jack Canfield, who was featured along with me in Rhonda Byrne's book and movie phenomena, The Secret. Jack authored and co-authored more than 200 books, including The Success Principles and the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, which includes 40 New York Times bestsellers. More than 500 million books have sold in 47 languages around the world. On top of that, he holds 2 Guinness World Records and was inducted into the National Speakers Association Speaker Hall of Fame. You'll love what he says today. So I know you've read The Greatest Secret. What about The Greatest Secret really had the most impact for you?
I think, just the whole theme as it unfolds step by step, chapter by chapter, for me, it was all about just being present to what is, not resisting what is, allowing reality to be. I remember being with a Buddhist monk once who said, I'll tell you the secret, save you 20 years of meditation, just be yourself.
Right. That's
With
great advice.
the capital S.
Right. No.
So for me, I've been happier this last year than I've probably been in a long time. And I just noticed, in addition to being home and not traveling, which is really nice, but more than that, I'm just with whatever is. We had to pivot because of COVID, all that kind of stuff. And I just never resisted anything and just said, okay, this is what we're doing. Allow myself to be, have my feelings, watch them, watch my thoughts, let them go. All the stuff that's talked about in the book, I feel like I'm doing. It's not that I've perfected myself yet. I'd still have little twitches that of things where I'm not fully conscious or I get into judgment or something, but not nearly like I used to. So that book was a great reminder of, this, just keep living it and right on.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. I had a similar feeling when I read the book. I was surprised. The whole thing was a shock. It was a totally unexpected thing. Amy and I were on a hike, and we mutually had this idea that it'd be nice to get the Sedona method out to a broader audience because of all the suffering that's out there. And we said, well, something will come. We don't know what. And we just both just let it go. And about 2 weeks later, I heard from Rhonda saying, hey, we want to put you and Lester, my mentor, and the Sedona method in this new book we're doing called, and they didn't even have a name yet. And we went, oh, I guess that's what's going to get the method out to more people. And it's starting to have that effect, which has been beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it's so clear. You look at the world right now, just the divide between the right and the left in America, and you realize it's just beliefs. It's just
Right.
belief that the other person shouldn't be thinking what they're thinking, doing what they're doing, whatever. And until we can step back from that and just realize it's our beliefs and our stories and all the conditioning that we have, it's creating that reaction, the triggers, etc., that are written about in the book and that you teach about. I love what the book says. It's really simple. It's really simple. Now, getting there, getting the whole culture there is not something that happens by next Wednesday. But
No,
point
it
is,
might take an extra week or two.
yeah, it might take it. But the answer really is that simple. When you become aware that you are awareness and you just live in that state of, some people call it mindfulness, some people call it awareness, some people call it being present, whatever it is, it really does get easier. And as you were saying, things start to happen. Like I've had 3 major opportunities come to me this week, all of which could be worth millions, if not tens of millions of dollars,
Hmm.
that I wasn't even, I always like to have wealth. I mean, that's always been there as something I enjoy, but I wasn't like wanting it, pursuing it, pushing for it. Just, it's just showing up. The happier I get, the easier it gets. It's like, it's
Yes,
so weird.
yes.
I love it.
I know that's been my experience too. When you are yourself, everything takes care of itself. When you just are that awareness, that
Yeah.
presence, that beingness.
I love Michael Beckwith's quote. He says, evolution of consciousness is occurring through you as you.
Right.
So if you just allow whatever comes through to be, then it's all evolving in its right timing, because this is
Yes.
what's showing up now. I,
Right.
I just saw a movie called The Land, or
Hmm.
Land, and it's a wonderful movie about this woman whose husband and son are killed, and I think maybe like at a murder at a rock concert or something, and she just decides to pack it in and go up and live in like the northern part of Idaho or something in a cabin, maybe it's Canada, and literally has the person drive her car away, and she's just going to live there. And she has some challenges, and she's about to die because she made some big mistakes. She didn't know what she was doing.
Right.
This man who seems to be like French Canadian, part Native, Native American, or First Nation, as they say in Canada, whichever it was, comes by and saves her.
Hmm.
And she says, "Why did you choose to save me?" And he comes by a lot and teaches her how to live off the land. And all he said, "Because you were in my path.
Right.
Because I stumbled upon you, and you were about to die. So it meant that I was supposed to interact with you and help you,
Right.
because you're on
Right.
my path. You're what showed up."
Right. Right. If only we paid attention to what was in our path, we'd all be better off.
Exactly.
Most of us have opportunities in front of us and we just go, oh, that's an opportunity. I think I'll go right around
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that. That's a beautiful story. Yeah. So when you talked about just being happy is the key to having what you want, is basically what you said. I'm paraphrasing. And something else I wanted to discuss with you is that we are both in the movie and the book, The Secret. And a lot of that is about manifesting what you want. So, where do you see the secret supporting the greatest secret, or the greatest secret supporting the work in The Secret? How do you see that?
Well, for me, and I haven't thought about it too deeply, but the way I think about it is that my job is to be aware. And like, what shows up in my path. It might be a kid who needs help. It might be someone who wants coached. It might be a company that wants me to work with them. It might be my son who's having challenges with his wife, which is happening right now. So, and then my question is, how can I be of service? And often then it calls on some of the manifestation techniques of The Secret. What is your vision for your ideal relationship? What is your vision for, your company working? What is your vision for a society that's getting along? So I do think we wake up with some sense of a vision. Like, I decide what I'm going to wear today. Why did I decide that? Well, I know I'm going to do an interview, so I'm not going to wear pajamas all day long. So there's some sense of the future, even in the present moment. The
Uh-huh.
mind does do that, and I think it's useful as long as you're not obsessing about the past or freaking out about the future, fear-based future kind of thing. But I think for me, there are things that emerge as things that I feel attracted to create, participate in, produce, whatever. And then those laws of attraction, techniques, rules, whatever you want to call them, become useful.
Right.
So I studied psychosynthesis for a lot of years. And the idea was who you are is a pure center of awareness and choice. So the awareness becomes aware. It can be aware of my feelings, aware of my body, aware of my thoughts, aware of my desires, which can get you in trouble. And,
Right.
but I have to be aware of them.
Right.
So, but also I can be aware of my high self, my spiritual guidance, my intuition, the signs I'm getting. Like we have dreams, we have I talk to God. God answers. Kind of
Right.
thing.
Right.
Or I'm meditating and I get some impulse to do something, and then now that I've got the impulse because I've been aware and I've listened, now I move into action. And there are some things about action that the Secret teaches that I think are really valuable, like visualization, like affirmations, like taking action, believing that action is a demonstration of your belief, which I don't think got enough attention in the secret. I always tell people, if I was holding a class and I'm going to teach you to walk on water and levitate, how many would sign up? And most people would say, no. Why not? Well, I don't believe you can do that. So you wouldn't act on that because you don't believe it. Now, if you believed and you'd seen people levitate and walk on water, you go, yeah, that's kind of cool. Maybe I want to learn to do that because you believe it's possible.
Right.
So belief is, I think, is valuable. Belief's a choice. We can choose to believe anything we want. And I go back to a book you may have read many years ago called Seth Speaks. It was one of the first books.
Oh, I think I did read that. That was a long time ago.
Long time ago. I was in graduate
Didn't he
school.
also talk about how you're supposed to nap during the day? Was that him?
I don't remember that part.
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm not sure.
During the day. But anyway, Jane Roberts wrote the book. I remember reading it, and she, Seth speaking through her said, everything you create everything through thought. And you can create anything you want. And I went into this big fear place of well, what if I choose to create the wrong thing? It was like that place,
Yeah, yes.
we got to be responsible in a sense for what we create. But so I do think what The Secret teaches is valuable, but I think in the context of the greatest secret for happiness and for peace and for the essence of who we really are and the end of all struggle and suffering, that's a great book. But then if you want to have some things in your life, some will show up. They just do. But I also think you can attract things through your power of thought. And I think that's useful to know.
Yeah. And also, I think that to really be able to stay focused on that which you truly are, it's harder if you haven't really mastered the world, at least to some degree. Mm-hmm. And the tools in The Secret are great tools for mastering life.
Yes.
And so I think it kind of is a great preparation to what happens when you start looking beyond just manifesting. And also when you get to manifest and you realize that's not everything,
right?
It's an amazing preparation to go, well, there's got to be more to life than just having more stuff.
Yeah. Like how much is enough? Where are you going to put it anyway?
Right.
But I'll share with you two things that you've probably heard, but one is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the first one is you got to have survival needs met: heat, water, food. Without that, you die. So that becomes really important if you're like a Syrian refugee,
right.
a place to sleep and eat and all that. Then you have belonging needs. You want to belong somewhere. You want to, that's important. And then you move up. You get to the top. What used to be thought the top was self-actualization, fully actualize your potential. But Maslow had a seventh thing at the top of the triangle, which didn't get written about, but he published a couple of papers about it, which is called self-transcendence, which is what really the greatest secret's about, is transcending who we think we are and coming to a place of just beingness. And so for me, those are steps that I think most people need to go through to get there. And I think the secret really helps people do that, as you said. The other thing is something Michael Beckwith teaches, which I think is really valuable. Michael Beckwith was in The Secret, as you know. If you're listening to this and you don't know who he is, he's a minister down in LA, and he's incredible.
He's a great guy.
He talked about what he called 4 stages of consciousness. I think I'm getting this right. I haven't talked about this for a while.
It's okay.
The first stage is you think you're a victim. You're saying, why God me? Why are you doing this to me?
Yes.
The second stage, you realize that there are some rules to life, and so you become what he calls the manipulator stage.
Right.
And so now you use the law of attraction and things like that to manipulate reality and create what you want. So you're no longer a victim, you're now a creator. And then at some point you go, wow, if there's someone creating these laws, if these laws exist, there must be something greater that's holding all this together.
Right.
And if it's that smart, I should surrender to it. So the next stage is surrender. So you surrender, not my will, but thy will, inner guidance, follow your soul's heart and all that. And then the fourth stage is like, maybe I am that.
Right.
Maybe I am God. Not all of God, any more than one molecule of water in the ocean is the ocean, but it is still ocean. Right. And so you get to the place where I think some avatars have lived, like Sai Baba, who goes like that and rings fall out of their hand.
Right.
They can create anything, and they just do it if they want to, but they don't need to because they're already totally it. You are the creator.
Yeah, I hadn't remembered that, but yeah, no, that's a great analogy because I think when we uh, once we get past the first two stages, the victim and then the manipulator,
Mhm.
life really gets a lot sweeter.
Yes.
It's just a lot sweeter because you're responding to what is, you're enjoying what is moment to moment. You're connected not just to community, back to the higher needs that you were talking about, but you're connected to your own inner source. And then you move from being connected to it to actually being it. And again, it's not, yeah, saying I am God is just sounds like you're full of shit.
Right.
Pardon my French, but I don't know if they're
Which
going to
word,
bleep that
God
out.
or shit?
but but if you realize you are all, or you are that the one awareness that is living through all,
Right.
that there's not a personal center around that. And that also, it feels exquisite to live that way. And you can always move back down to the other levels in Maslow's hierarchy, but also move down to manifesting if you need to, or surrendering when it's important.
Right.
But having that be your base is an amazing place to live from.
Yeah,
And, and that's the possibility that's available to all of us. Wouldn't you agree?
I do. I do. And another thing that struck out, because I did reread the book last night because I knew I was going to be doing this interview with you. And one of the things that I remembered is, this rabbi I knew, I don't
Yes.
even know if he's alive anymore, but he used to always come up when he'd introduce himself, he'd say, "Hi, me."
Right.
Because when you really get that we are all one consciousness, we all are one life force energy,
Yes.
and we're manifesting in unique ways, perhaps. But the essence of it is we're all, and when you really get that and you start to see that everything is me, I'll just share another example with you. I remember when, I forget his name now, whoever was the head of the House of Representatives during a Republican term, and Paul Ryan, I think his name was,
Yes.
and he had done something that I thought was not very compassionate. He botched some law that I thought would really help a lot of people that need help. And I remember thinking a judgmental thought about that. And then I remember this woman whose name I'll also probably forget in a moment, and she was doing a talk on through the University of California, Santa Barbara lecture series. And she said she had gone to dinner and she was judging him like I had been judging him. And, here's this guy, he's got control of billions of dollars. He won't even like earmark some of it for the people who need it. And then she said, and I walked right by a homeless person into a restaurant, had a $150 meal with $100 bottle of wine. And I said, "Oh my God, I'm Paul Ryan." you know, and so it's like you begin to realize that whoever you're judging, there's some of that in you, or you wouldn't be judging it anyway.
That's right. There
Talks
wouldn't be a
about
reaction.
it's a reaction to something in you that's a wound or an hurt place, or an unresolved feeling from your childhood. And I think that's valuable to be reminded of. And it's my friend, and her, Janet Atwood, always says,
Oh, yes, Janet.
when you're pointing like that, there's three fingers pointing back at you.
Right, right, right,
You
right,
know what I mean? So I just
right.
remember that.
Yeah,
So I don't get judgmental much anymore. I've even come to the place where I can love, Donald Trump and the president of Brazil. And, it's like,
right,
I
right,
don't,
right,
I don't necessarily love what they do, but I don't not love them.
right, right. Yeah, no, I have this sense that even they are playing the role that they're supposed to be
Yeah,
playing for this dance to unfold as it
I know.
is.
I know. I once had a guy told me I used to work for a company. They made cassette tapes and they sold them for me. And the guy that ran it at that time, I would have called him a jerk.
Mhm.
And so I remember being really upset with him. And a high conscious person who understands what's in the book, The Greatest Secret, said to me, he was just put on the planet so the rest of us could learn to practice forgiveness.
And then some people are like that. Some
Yeah,
people are like that. And honestly, it's more fun to be the one who's forgiving than the one who needs to be forgiven,
yeah,
because forgiveness feels wonderful.
yeah. What's a release? whenever we
Yes, it is.
promote,
It's definitely a
energy
release.
flows, it's good.
Yeah, yeah, you're letting go of something. Lester used to say when people would say to him, "I love you," he would say, "Good for you." And he didn't mean that because he was full of himself. Because one of the things he worked on as he was working on himself is he realized that it's not about being loved, it's about loving.
Right.
So he would say that to people, and at first people were like, "What are you talking about?" But it feels so good to love because love is your basic nature. There's just this openness and alignment and happiness that comes from when you're just loving a person, a thing. It doesn't matter what, because that love just, I don't know, it just does something wonderful to the body mind. It really does.
Yeah, well, for me, it's like an energy flow. I don't know how to
Right.
explain it, where it's sourcing from out of me, in me, the life force that always was there that I was repressing. Who knows? But when I'm in that state, which I'm in a lot, like when Marcy Shimoff wrote her book, Happy for No Reason, it's like
Yes.
you don't need a reason to be happy. Happiness is your natural state.
Right, right, right.
To remove everything in the way of it. You've heard me tell my story about the Golden Buddha when I was in Thailand.
Yeah, go ahead and tell it though, because not everybody knows the story.
Yeah, so I was in Thailand with my wife and we were doing seminars and we had a few days to be tourists. And one of the things you do when you're in Bangkok, if you take the normal tours, is you visit 3 Buddhist temples: the Jade Buddha, the Reclining Buddha, and the Golden Buddha. And the Golden Buddha is about 10.5 feet tall. It's solid gold. It's probably worth hundreds of millions of dollars in today's gold value if you just melted it down. And when I was looking at it and about to take a picture, I noticed off to the right, there was a frame with a big piece of clay in it. And then typed very casually, like you'd type on a Selectric typewriter and pin it on the wall with a push pin. Now it's encased. I've been there since. But what happened was it said, in 1954, they did not know there was a Golden Buddha. And they were moving this large clay Buddha from one side of Bangkok to the other. And the reason they were moving it was the city decided they needed to put a road through that area, a big, 4-lane highway type thing. So they had to move the temple. So they're lifting it up with this crane. And when they were lifting it, it was weighed more than they thought because they thought it was clay and didn't compensate for the gold that was in there because they didn't know. It slipped and it came down to the earth and it cracked. And I always think it'd be like you're moving the David or the Pietà, and all of a sudden you
Right, it cracked. They probably go, ah!
So they lowered it back down to the ground more, and they were starting to inspect it when it started to rain. So they put a big piece of canvas over it to keep it dry. And that night, the head monk came out with a flashlight, shined it under the canvas to make sure it was staying dry, and he saw something gleaming back from inside the crack. And he said, "Well, clay doesn't reflect light. What could that be?" And the next morning, when it stopped raining, to avoid any problems, they did it in the back so they could hide it if they made a mistake. But they discovered the Golden Buddha that was inside. So they took all the clay off. And my wife and I were having dinner that night. And I said, that's just like the students we work with, that basically we discover, which means take the cover off, who we really are. It's already there. And so we're discovering it by taking off what we're not, all the hurts, the wounds, the conditioning, the thoughts, the beliefs, the stories. And that's really what the work's about. You can get there. There's a lot of techniques that are a lot more direct than that. But the essence is we're all Golden Buddhas. We're all Christ consciousness. We're all pure energy, pure love.
No, I agree with that. And my work is a lot about that. We actually do both. We do the peeling and we do the cracking sometimes.
Yeah.
We do both things. But I've recently realized that I think I heard it from one of the other teachers in The Greatest Secret, but it reminded me of something that I've watched happen. Well, first off, it's so much fun to watch the clay come off for people. Yeah. You and I have been, I think we're blessed to have the play the roles that we are. The gratitude I had the first time I ever taught a Sedona Method course has never left me because I get to witness people discovering they're not made of clay. And it's amazing to watch that transformation and to be part of it. I don't really feel like I'm doing anything. It feels like it's all spontaneously happening, but to watch that, to be witness to that happening to people over and over and over again is incredibly beautiful. But what I recently recognized or remembered is that some of the peeling or the shedding happens after you've really discovered the truth of who you are. I used to believe actually, I've known this for a while, but I used to still had this lingering belief that you really can't be fully the truth of who you are unless you've dealt with all your issues first. And what I've recognized is that the dealing with the issue part makes it easier and easier for that recognition to happen. But at the same time, you can have that recognition, because people do all the time and done no work on themselves. But afterwards, then that's when the work starts. And so it's been nice to watch that. I've been working with people on both sides of that all along, and I never really paid much attention to that.
Mhm.
I just think it's important to do the work no matter where you are in the whole process of it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, when you take a bowl, it's got a lot of crusted stuff on it, and you put it in the sink because you don't want to wash it, but you fill it up with water, and you come back the next morning and everything that was crusted is all soft right now.
Right,
It did that all night and you weren't even there.
right,
So
right,
it's like when you work with people, often that process continues, and there's like the sloughing off or whatever metaphor you want to use. Because
right,
I get letters and emails all the time. Wow, I just had an amazing epiphany today, and I want to tell you about it because it started in your workshop.
right, right, right,
And
right.
so yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's so much fun. But no one ever equated me to the water you put on a dirty dish in the sink overnight. I like that.
Water's a good thing to be, man.
I know, you just
It's a great,
flow.
it's a great dissolver. Grand Canyon was created by water, but
I
slow.
know, I know. The water is an amazing force, but the sink water is
I know, I
but
know. I was
but again, I love it because again, I always love hearing things that make what we're doing when we're working with people more normal, human, approachable, and not so special, because it isn't special. It's wonderful that, again, we're playing these roles, but it's the less special people make us, the more they can learn from us, I think.
Oh yeah, I always tell people, I mean, who wrote that book? I'm not. Well, Tony Robbins did a thing called "I'm Not Your Guru," you know?
Right, right, right,
And then a friend of mine wrote a book called "If You Meet the Buddha on the Road, Kill Him."
right, right,
Lisa Nichols said, "We're just all wounded people helping other wounded people get out of our wounds."
right, right, right,
That's
right,
what we're
right.
doing. And nobody wants to learn from the sage on the stage. They want a guide by the side who says, "Okay, we're all human. I'm here to help. This is my role. You bake bread, you fix airplanes. I do this." And we need
Right,
all
right,
we
right,
need
right,
each
right,
other
right, right.
to do what we love to do. And if we all did it, the world would work.
Right. It would certainly work better than it's working right now.
Exactly.
So, what else do you think would help people based on that these two books are part of a one continuum, but being familiar with both, what else do you think we could share right now, or that you could share? This has been more of a discussion, but that's how it's been flowing more and more as I get into this. It's been more with everybody a discussion as opposed to just an interview, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah. I don't know, Hal. I find two things are true. I find people are attracted to the teachers they need at the time they need them.
Yep.
And someone may be attracted to Tony Robbins because they need to own their power. Someone's attracted to some of the people in The Greatest Secret, and most of whom I'd never heard of, but they're people who are teaching people who are ready for that kind of teaching.
Right.
And so I think that for a lot of people, The Secret attracted people whose lives weren't working on a material level, relational level,
Right.
et cetera. And as you said, once people have start to manifest stuff, they begin to go, okay, there's more to this than that. Do you have enough money? You get into philanthropy, you start caring, you want to make a difference, you want to share, and then you move into higher levels. One of my favorite stories is about this guy named Ken Behring, who I met. It was an award ceremony where they were honoring people who'd made a difference in the world. And for me, it was Chicken Soup for the Soul. And this
Right.
woman who had made obscene amounts of money, I mean, like $800 million or more off of college loan money. She loaned money to
Right.
students and then made a lot of money back. But she felt like she wanted to give something back. So she would invite up to about, I think it was like 1,000 students who were some of the brightest students, Soros scholars, Gates scholars, people that were at the top of their class at Harvard, USC, and UCLA. And then she would expose them to people like us,
Right.
people that were high consciousness and made a big difference. There were all kinds of people there. The guys who started Google, just on and on. And so what happens is that I met this guy, Ken Behring, and he was worth $800 million when he bought the Seattle Seahawks.
Right.
With some guys, right? He thought that would be cool. So he gave his talk. We all got to give like a TED talk. His talk was the 4 stages of my life. And the first stage he called stuff. He thought, I thought if I had a lot of the right stuff, if I had a lot of stuff, I'd be happy.
Right,
Instead, I
right.
made millions of dollars. I bought the cars, I had an exotic car collection, big screen TV, viewing room. His wife had all the jewelry, private plane, private yacht. So I wasn't happy. So the second stage was called better stuff. So I figured, well, if I had a bigger plane, a bigger house, more cars,
Right,
I'd be
right,
happy. Still wasn't happy. And he said, maybe I'm buying the wrong kind of stuff.
This guy was into stuff.
So that's when he decided to buy the Seattle Seahawks with a couple of
Right,
other
right.
guys who bought it, invested. Still wasn't happy. And then the guy called him up and he said, would you come? I've got this jet. I'm going to go to Bosnia-Herzegovina. I'm going to give away 40 wheelchairs to kids who've had their legs blown off by landmines or they were born that way congenitally. Would you like to come? And he said, sure, why not? So he gets on the plane. They fly over there. All these kids are lined up on a tarmac, sitting on the ground. And they got all these wheelchairs. They bring them up and they start picking up the kids one at a time, putting them in the wheelchairs, have a little conversation through an interpreter. He said, I picked up this one 11-year-old boy and I put him in a wheelchair and I turned to go and the boy wouldn't let go of my leg. So I turned around and looked at him and he looked up through tears and he said, through the interpreter, he said, please don't leave yet. I want to memorize your face. So when we meet again in heaven, I can thank you one more time.
Yeah.
And he said, my heart broke. He said, for the first time in my life, I felt pure joy. And that's when he came home and he created the Ken Behring Wheelchair Foundation, later started building wells. He's given away millions of wheelchairs. I mean, literally in every country in the world. And he said, that's when I found my true happiness. So, when you get enough stuff, something happens and you realize, hey, there's more than stuff. Sometimes it has to be something that happens to you, like your daughter won't speak to you anymore, or you have an accident. You get cancer, or in this case, this child said, hey, you gave me my life. And he was touched so deeply. But we see so many people that don't get that lesson. And you see a lot of millionaires and billionaires that are totally unhappy. So we know stuff doesn't do it.
Right.
And it's the inner work. And I love that we're able to do that. And I love that these books are out there. Oprah talks about it. I've been on Oprah. We've been in The Secret. You're in this book now. There'll probably be a movie about that. Whatever it is, it's getting out. That's exciting.
Yes,
when you think about The Secret, was the #1 DVD in China for 2 years. That when I went to Iran, which is a quote unquote evil state, according to America, I had to go through Pakistan to get a visa. I go there and I have 800 people show up for a workshop in Tehran. Why? Because they showed The Secret on national television in Iran. Oh, the Ayatollah allowed that, So it's happening everywhere, step by step.
I know I'm doing a facilitator training at the moment. Last night, I had a woman named Fareshte who has been teaching the Sedona method in Iran for the past 25 years. She has 35,000 people using the Sedona method in Iran. And I had no idea she had gotten that big. We've kind of lost touch with each other. And it's just amazing how we have these preconceived notions about parts of the world, about people. Yeah. And then you find out that they're a lot more open to growth and truth than we realize.
Have you learned how to say, could you, would you, when in Farsi yet?
No, I should ask her how to do that, though. I'm going
to... One thing about the cultures in the middle, because I've done a lot of touring in Kuwait and Iran and Bahrain and all those places. And they talk about inshallah, God willing. So part of the culture is almost a little more aligned with this. I think what I heard when I was there was we needed more of what The Secret was about, because too many people are not taking a personal initiative to make things happen, to make their lives work, et cetera.
Yes.
You add that to the oil, which a lot of people don't have to work because the government provides them housing and things like that, but they're going to run out of peak oil. So they're going, okay, we better look at these things. But, every culture has its good sides that align with this and then some that don't so much. And you got to find that balance, and the East and the West coming together, helping each other, the Middle East.
Right.
So it's fun to watch.
It is. It is fun to watch. And if you pay attention, even when things seem like they're in terrible shape, this is going on. I mean, Iran, the past 25 years in Iran have not been a picnic in Iran.
No.
They've been a pariah according to many countries, and they've had all sorts of turmoil within the country. But at the same time, and she's a woman too. So a woman in Iran teaching 35,000 people a technique about letting go is just a real affirmation that more things are possible than we can imagine. So what would you like to leave people with?
Trust that this stuff is real and it works. So if you have any doubts about it, just look at our faces.
Well, this is a podcast, so
okay, hear our voices.
Right.
I'm sitting here looking at Hale in a screen, so I didn't know that. But anyway, we're both ecstatically grinning from ear to ear as we.
Right.
No, I would just say, I always say you have everything you need to be happy. You have everything you need to accomplish anything you want. You have everything you need to just live life and be fulfilled, have a meaningful life, an unmeaningful life, whatever you choose. Trust your inner guidance, trust your heart, and trust whatever shows up, and just be with it and allow yourself to be attracted to the teachers you're attracted to, the books you want to read, the courses you want to take, the things you want to do. I really believe that if you do that, that everything you need will show up in your path. And as we talked about earlier, what you said, Hale, people often don't realize when an opportunity is in front of them.
Right.
And just take advantage of them.
I hope you enjoyed our time with Jack Canfield. He lives love and joy, and we are blessed he joined us today. I wholeheartedly recommend his book, The Success Principles. You can get it on his website, jackcanfield.com. That's jackcanfield.com. You can also pick it up wherever books are sold. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you have immediate access to future episodes. Please give us a 5-star rating and share it with the people you care about. These episodes are dedicated to sharing the eternal teachings from the greatest secret. As Rhonda said, we've missed the truth for thousands of years because we've not looked at what is right in front of us. We've become easily distracted by our problems, the drama in our lives, the coming and goings of the events in the world, and we've missed the greatest discovery we can make, a discovery that can take us out of suffering and into lasting bliss and happiness. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona method, please visit sedona.com. As you explore our site, you will learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to sedona.com. That's sedona.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.